Hey guys, what's up? JP McDaniel here, joined by Sundance DiGiovanni of MLG. Sundance, Dallas has just closed. How are you feeling? Have you, recollected yourself after such a stressful weekend, I'm sure?
It usually takes a little while, but I'm feeling pretty good. We had a great event, great results, great numbers. It was good to see everybody again. Now it's just planning. We got to come out of it strong and plan the rest of the year. So I think I'll get some rest one of these days, but not today.
So let's talk about Dallas a little bit. First events of the year for esports events just carry so much weight. Dallas had a little bit extra weight with Heart of Swarm launching the same week. A couple of weeks prior, you had a huge closure of IPL 6, one of your major competitors here in North America. How much pressure was there on this event for you guys? Was it more than normal?
Well, yeah, it's funny, but yeah, I mean, honestly, you know the drill. You've been around for long enough, and you've seen kind of what we go through to prepare for these things. But there was a lot riding on this event. We had a new production partner. We changed the look in the room dramatically. HOTS being basically coming out that week, there was a lot of stuff that had to line up and had to go well. And then add to that the pressure of the IPL 6 announcement and the uncertainty around basically the North American scene. And I felt like people were going to be looking at us and wondering if we could sustain what we had done in previous events. So I was more nervous than I've been in some time, to be honest with you. And I think a lot of the staff was, not that they would admit it going into the event, but just wanting it to be perfect, wanting it to be as close to perfect at least as possible. Imagine our surprise when we actually had great numbers, and I think a technically almost flawless event, other than a few game hiccups. But from our side, on the broadcast side, we had the fewest complaints we've ever had. Which was nice, not to get lit up on Reddit or Twitter, but so all in all, it was a great feeling to walk out of there, Sunday night, knowing that we nailed it.
Well, the numbers are in. You guys have just released these. So 2.6 million uniques watched for an average of 150 minutes each, with 6.5 million hours of video consumed over the weekends. So for the average person, you see this data come out, and can you are there any real world examples to tie that to, or what does this data actually mean?
Well, I mean, you'll see we had a couple of releases following the event. It's just the level of engagement is still super high, right? So we had fewer streams happening this weekend. We didn't have the multi-view player that we've had in the past, but we still saw really great numbers. And I think, to be frank, that was one of the concerns going into this year for a lot of people. So from an engagement standpoint, although it's not apples to apples, but I'll take it anyway, we were a more engaging video, production than the Super Bowl via streaming. Yes, we're over multiple days. Yes, we've got a lot more hours, but there is no apples to apples. I mean, what we do is unique. What MLG and DreamHack and ESL do are unique in that we take a very long format, competitive environment, and we create content that's incredibly sticky and loved by a growing audience. So basically what you take from it is that we're doing well, the audience is there, the audience is growing, and a game, especially with StarCraft too, right, that a lot of people were wondering about, came back just like a bat out of hell. I mean, what we saw from HOTS was fantastic. It was all that we could have hoped for. So, the MLG brand, the MLG audience is very, very strong right now, and I think we're going to look to build on that in a major way throughout the rest of the year.
With all these numbers, is there kind of a next benchmark that you've already maybe prepared in your mind, or maybe is a kind of a company memo that you guys are going to be looking to hit for the next event?
Well, it's not so much for the next event, but because again, the events are peaks and they're incredibly important. But the goal is to get to a place where we have a consistent audience engagement, in a quarter, right? So that 2.6 is fantastic. I want to be at 4 to 4.5 at the end of the year. I think that we can do that between our weekly programming that we have planned as well as the events that we have planned. So, basically, I want to double what we just did by the end of the year. Is my goal.
You mentioned the North American scene, along with NASL. You and NASL are kind of the two major leagues, with arguably you guys kind of putting on the bigger events, so to speak. What do you think the outlook is for the North American scene in the next 6 months to the year? Are you worried at all, or are you, Yeah, are you worried at all?
No, I'm not. I'm not worried. I mean, I'm actually really bullish on it. As I said, we just had what was arguably our most successful event from a monetization standpoint ever, right? And so that's always been the key. Is yeah, we know people will show up, but can we get ads served? Can we get advertisers in? Can we do a good job on those fronts? And we just delivered that. So I think that what we're talking about behind the scenes, what we're trying to execute and build with our partners for North America specifically, is bigger than anything that we've ever done before. And I'm really hoping that we get to a place soon in the next couple of weeks where we can talk about it publicly. But there's growth to be had here. There really is. When I say these things, I mean it. I'm not just viewing the company line. If I didn't believe this, I would have moved on a long time ago. The constriction that we've seen in terms of us kind of taking the leadership role and being the primary North American league is necessary for this growth to occur. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to profit off the demise of other leagues, but you need to have a singular focus in order for this stuff to really take root. It's what we've seen in every traditional sport that's ever existed. And we're there. We're in a position now where there are ad dollars flowing. There's not a lot of competition for us. The audience is growing. So it really comes down to an execution standpoint, in terms of what the health of North America is going to be. And I think Asia is also, there's a lot of untapped potential in Asia, with China coming online in a lot of ways. Obviously the scene in Korea. Europe's got a tremendous amount of talent. So the idea is, I think, to have all three of those regions working together. And I think, what's in the pipeline should support that and should reinforce that. I'm really excited for what we're going to do next, because I think everybody's looking right now and saying that was great, and it was a really fulfilling event. There's some things we want to fix, but again, the core structure of what exists here in North America, it's going to get stronger, and I think that's the thing that I'm most excited to be helping out with and trying to build.
One of the main, I guess, company lines that you guys were repeating a lot at the end of 2012 was this theme of lean and mean. Your first event's over. You guys added a lot of new equipment, brought in a new production team, and probably had some new hires there as well for the event. Is this still kind of your main theme moving forward in 2013?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have a roadmap and scorecard that we're keeping ourselves to, and spending is on that. We're not going to increase our spending in order to, in the past we'd had to, right? Call in a satellite truck or, add an extra stream, bring in new casters. In the past we'd had this very, prove the concept. We're fighting a ground war. We've got competition coming after us in the space. Now we've got a little bit more of a secure foothold. So we're going to keep our spending in a position where we know the company will be profitable. And not just a little bit profitable, but substantially profitable. In order to do that requires, planning. And I have to say, this year we spent a hell of a lot of time putting thought into the planning for every part of the company, assigning responsibilities, assigning numbers to people, and tracking against those numbers. And so far, we're doing really well. I'm not going to lie. I always want to do better. I'm never going to be satisfied with what we're doing until I feel like we've literally, we've reached a point where there is no more room to grow. So we are lean and mean. That event that you saw, amazingly enough, was not far off from the production costs that we've had at an event, in previous years, because we broke everything apart and reconstructed it with thought, real thought into the process of how the costs had to be balanced and had to be measured against the profit or revenue that it would generate. And it's been an interesting process, and we've learned a lot about ourselves, and I think it's been one that's been a little painful for some people inside the company. But the good news is that we're still able to put on a great show. We're producing more content than ever, and we have no plan of slowing down.
To talk about the three main titles and maybe a missing one, StarCraft 2 League of Legends, Call of Duty did great for you this past weekend. Last year, you guys kind of dabbled into the world of fighters with a couple titles on your circuit. Are you guys kind of not done, but will we see those titles return in 2013, or are you guys going to stick with what you have now?
I think there's a possibility that you'll see things added to the fold, but we're not going to chase anything. We did that in the past. I mean, what we did with fighting games was not a money making proposition for us in the past, and we can't afford to do that. As much as I love it, and it's where I got a lot of my start, and in competitive gaming and esports was around fighters. It's just not something that we can do. I think the community is served pretty well by what's out there. I think it's unfortunate that we just saw arguably the biggest title, sign up with IPL, and then where that is right now. But for us right now, it's a question of, investing where we know that there's a return on that investment, not just for us, but also for our publishing partners. We need to make sure that, again, we need to remember that's not just about MLG making money, it's about the people who are producing these games and creating this IP benefiting from esports as well. So I think fighting games will be fine. I think they've got a culture that works. EVO's always going to be there. The regionals will always be there. Hopefully at some point we get back into that, but again, if and when we do, it'll be much different than what we did in the past. But I would be surprised if we were able to pull anything off of this year. I never say never, but I just don't see it right now in terms of the way that the year is laying out.
You mentioned IPL and Capcom kind of working together, and now with what's happened with IPL, has that opened communication lines back up between the two of you? Has there been any movement on that front, or?
Well, I stopped calling them a while ago, and my phone hasn't rung recently from them. But like I said, who knows? If things line up, they line up. Right now, it's just it is what it is. I think they're probably in a position where they're going to focus on their on their regionals and their community events, and if I meet up with them at E3 or something, hopefully we can come to some sort of an agreed plan or direction. But for right now, like I said, I'm really busy just with what we have. I mean, we're understaffed a little bit at the moment, and trying to hire folks to help, so I don't have to be the one dealing with all of these relationships. But so I'm going to focus on the things where I know that there's growth opportunities and where I've got partners who plug in well to what we're already doing.
One of the not really a complaint, but maybe just questions about this past weekend were stream viewers trying to view via mobile devices, your iPads, your iTunes, or your iPhones, etc. Is there a reason why streaming was not available via mobile devices?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the Twitch app doesn't allow for ads to be served on a mobile device. So as much as I hate it, again, we had to make a decision around that. And I'm sure it cost us some audience. I mean, I know it did. It was the one area where I got some hate. Normally, there's 3 or 4 areas where people are hating on me over a weekend, but when we have an event, and I understand that it's disappointing. The VODs were available really quickly; you can watch those. But again, until we get to a place where we're able to control the distribution and have guaranteed results, we have to make tough decisions like that. And we're working with Twitch to figure that out. I don't want to put that's not just on them. That was our decision once we realized that issue existed. And it's existed for a while with Twitch. But, at the end of the day, I've made lines in the sand before where I've said that we've got to get, people to pay for stuff, or we need to be able to serve ads. And I'll stick to that. I need to, and so hopefully folks will understand that. And over time, we'll get to, to a place where that's been fixed. But again, that was one of the major disappointments for me this weekend, was that we weren't able to have that come in and add to the folks able to enjoy the event, because it's typically a substantial portion of the audience.
To step back a little bit, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that this was one of y'all's first events to really use Twitch TV for everything. You guys have always had your own player on the website. How'd that go? Was it an overall good experience?
Yeah, no, I think the Twitch guys are great. I think there are some things that we want to get ironed out moving forward, and some features that we'd like to see added. We're kind of a unique customer, right, or partner, I should say, not even customer, in that when we have these events, how the bandwidth, it just kind of can be overwhelming, and what you're trying to accomplish and create for the viewers. So, but the Twitch guys were there. As I said, we didn't have very many issues on stream stuff. I think there's always some issues when you have an audience of that size as servers, spin up. But, I'm happy with what we were able to do. I think there's more that we can do in the future, but I always say that. And I challenge them just like they challenge us to bring more to the table. So, we're working with Twitch because we felt like, we needed some consistency, and we needed a partner that could help deliver the services that we need in order to scale that side of the business. So, between now and Anaheim, we'll work to add some more features, fix a few things that weren't quite how we wanted it, and continue to move forward with those guys. Kevin was there, and we were celebrating the fact that we were doing so well, and it's great to have them there at the event helping us out. And it's also nice to be able to point to somebody who's just focusing on that and say, here's what we need to be prepared for. They do that all day, every day. So it's good to be working closely with them.
So this event, in the past, you guys have used PS3 for kind of your main console thing, especially with your current title, Call of Duty. This year, you guys are using the 360s. How much is this? Like, what was the reason for the major switch, and how is the community responding to that?
So the big reason when we did the PlayStation console for the shooter side, it was part of our deal with Sony. And the switch is essentially because the majority of the audience, the competitive audience, is there, and Activision and Microsoft are very strongly supporting the activity. And the $1 Million Championship is going to be played on Xbox, so it just made sense not to fracture the audience. And I think you saw, in the numbers in the room that it worked out, and the community supported it. And again, we've run shooters on the Xbox for a long, long time, but normally they're named Halo. So we do have a lot of experience there.
Well, let's shift focus, which I'm sure a lot of people are wanting me to jump into StarCraft 2 for a little bit. And I'm sorry I have to lead with this question. I'm sure you're very, very tired of answering it, but the open bracket, you guys have been talking about it a lot recently. Your first event's over. Is it coming back this year? I've heard yes, I've heard no. What is kind of the definitive thing here? Will we see the open bracket return to MLG?
I think you'll see something that will work better than the open bracket. Open competition is important to us as we scale this, right? Especially if we talk about the North American scene in general. I know that people miss it. I know that people, are either upset by it and feel like we lost a little bit of what made MLG unique. But you got to bear with us. We have a plan in all this stuff, and our plan is not something we're creating on our own. It's something we're creating with Blizzard. So you will see. I think you'll see the concerns around open bracket really quickly. Actually, not, I was going to say gradually, but really quickly answered and alleviated with a new structure that comes in that allows for folks to play their way into greatness and to rise up, and find themselves in a situation where they're able to compete. It's just going to take us some time to figure that out. It's going to take us some time to get that ironed out, and nobody wants to have that solved, more than I do. But it's going to take a little while.
Is there a specific timeline for any of that to be figured out, or is it just are you taking the Blizzard approach and saying when it's done?
Well, I think one thing that's rubbed off on me is with regard to these things is when it's done, we will announce it. I would have come out here and said 5 different things at this point had I, made a comment every time the negotiation or the conversation shifted a little bit. So rather than look like a jackass who waffles, I'm going to wait on this one until we've got, a real plan that we can roll out. But it'll be something that'll be in place before Anaheim. So at least I hope so. That's the goal.
Blizzard just came out, as well as you guys. Both of you guys got 1.1 million esports fans watching the launch, as well as MLG Dallas. Looking at these numbers, was HOTS kind of the right boost that this community needed for the StarCraft 2 community needed? And secondly, how many of these viewers do you think is going to stick around? Because there's always the question of, well, maybe it was just because it was a new game out that week.
Well, I think, that's a good question. And I think the boost, yes, definitely. What Blizzard focused on with this, and I've been really, really impressed. I think the quality of games and the energy and the excitement, and we haven't even gotten through round 1 of the metagame evolution on HOTS, but we needed that. We needed that freshness, and that was really exciting as a spectator and as somebody who's a fan. In terms of the audience, I think, what we can't forget with StarCraft is this is a very important franchise for Blizzard. It's a very important franchise in that it's a game that they take very seriously. There's a lot of love and passion around it. So, imagine if they ratchet up their, vocal support of esports in general and their support of programming, and they become more of a guiding force in all this. Because they have been supportive, but they've also been kind of like, yeah, these are our partners, they're doing a great job, and here's what we do on top of that. And so, I actually think that we're in a position now where we're going to see audience scale around StarCraft, especially as we get a little bit deeper into some of the, finding out who some of the personalities are who are going to shine at HOTS, breaking down some of those barriers that have existed in the past. I mean, we saw players from all over the world at this event. And yes, Koreans rolled through, but You even saw players who typically have not been on the same stage, over in Korea very often, playing against one another, and I thought it was good. I thought it was great. I think I'm very bullish on StarCraft, and I know that it's a long tail view. It's a long-term vision and commitment that Blizzard has to it. So I think that we'll continue to see growth there. I don't think they're done. Is the great thing. I think that they're actually just kind of getting started. Just as you look back and you see, Brood War brought a lot just to competitive StarCraft. Now we have HOTS. And there's going to be a lot more thought and a lot more development and effort put into the franchise. So I don't think it's going anywhere.
Speaking on your caster roster for StarCraft 2, you guys went with kind of a very heavy YouTube personality, I guess quotes there, YouTube personality, for this event with In Control kind of coming in and being a very heavy analytical caster. Can people expect the same roster for the rest of the year? Are you guys looking to add on? I mean, for a while there, Tastosis was always on. Apollo was always there. Will they ever make a return, or will we see these same casters back for the next event?
I think we did well. I think Jeff killed it. I think people have always questioned whether or not he and I can coexist. I'm actually a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of the fact that he brings personality and he doesn't filter himself too much. I think obviously we had Husky Day 9. I mean, we had a great overall roundup. I think you could always look to us to maybe add to that and make some changes around it. I like the idea of having more players or former players accessible. Again, one of the big things for us is that we've got a lot of folks that we want to get into our events because they add a great layer of personality. There's a comfort of working with the same people over and over again. I'd love to see Tastosis. I'd love to see Apollo. It's going to depend on schedule. It's going to depend on cost. It's going to depend on a lot of things. I do think though that we will probably cycle all those guys back through at some point. But based on the groups that we just worked with, the feedback I have gotten from my production staff in terms of the level of professionalism and the focus and the willingness to bust their ass, I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan decides to bring back the exact same crew for the next event. But again, that's one thing that is not, I make suggestions and I kind of say, hey, here's somebody I like or we should look at. But I let my guys decide who's going to be there in front of the cameras, because at the end of the day, if it goes well, then they've done their job, and if it goes poorly, then we're all going to sit down and try and figure it out. But I think to a person, I felt like every caster who contributed this weekend did great. I mean, I think some of the combos, Total Biscuit and Jeff together, at times were incredible. I thought. Just because of the energy, right, and them feeding off of each other. And I think Sean and Jeff did well, and obviously Husky and Sean are great together. But I think there's a lot of people that I'd love to see work in our events. You, for example, I miss having you there. So I think we're not locked in stone with any of this stuff.
To spend some more time talking about In Control, because I know we both love doing that. It's no secret that MLG and EG have these two competing sponsors with NOS and Monster Energy. And in the past, we never really saw EG talent on any broadcast, as casters at least. What changed this time around to kind of make this possible? Was there something in the background? Did you sit Monster and NOS down and say, play nice? Or how did that actually come to fruition?
No, I just, and honestly, I just said, look, let's just do this and get it done. And we've been trying to get, Jeff and Greg even, up there casting for a while. And there's always been kind of concerns all over the jersey versus, how the other casters are wearing, blazers. And it's just, frankly, it's stupid shit. Like, if we can't get past it, then we're never going to grow. And so, we worked it out, and hopefully we'll continue to be able to work it out. I mean, I think, I'd love to be able to call on, should we have events where players are not qualified, meaning if they're playing events and players aren't, on the roster for that weekend, I'd love to be able to call on, players from all sorts of teams to be able to hop up there and help out. So, part of that is getting beyond the brand sensitivity that we used to have. I mean, remember, again, it used to be a turf war. It used to be a huge fight in terms of us trying to get some coverage and some security for our brand partners, but we've been able to move past that.
there was probably a lot of generated hype on y'all's end when it came to the production quality of this event. You know, you guys changed your entire venue around, and you hyped the fact that with 32 players, you guys were going to have a lot of content prepared going into the event. Do you guys, or I guess, do you think that you guys delivered on this promise and on this hype?
Not as much as I would have liked to. But again, I'm that guy who's like, oh, that was great. Well, except for this thing and this thing and this thing. You know, I feel like we did a good job of telling the story that was happening in the room, and even that could have been better. We have to do better in the future in order for us to be able to say that we nailed it and took advantage. I think, again, I'll talk with my production team and I'll sit down with them. I think they did a fantastic job. Don't get me wrong, but it would have been awesome to be sitting in the event and see a video run on one of those side player POV cameras showing who they played against to get there, what their rank or what their matchup win percentage was against the race they're going up against, what their win-loss on that map is. And now I know it's hot and it's early, but we have the beta info to work from. So we'll get there. I mean, we'll get there. It's one thing. Every event, there's stuff to improve on. And I think, that's one area that I want to improve at least. I think my guys will as well.
On the topic of event format, a lot of people are talking about the qualifiers right now, specifically for the summer season coming up in Anaheim. Are you guys looking to change that at all? Are you happy with how the qualifiers went for the winter season? And if there are changes, what will they be?
Well, I think it went really well, considering the fact that it was, the way it was executed and the fact that we were dealing with players all over the place. This is one of the things that we're talking about that we have to sort out with regard to how we're going to, what the open bracket will turn into. So I can't really comment on it yet until we do a full postmortem with Blizzard and look through, what the numbers were and how it went. But I was happy with it. I thought that we had some great moments, and the tune-in was very solid for the lead-in. It'll take a little time for us to get it to a place where it's perfect, of course, but I think we can do even better.
I'm going to push you a little bit on this. You said sit down with Blizzard. Are you guys looking to incorporate the ladder at all into this, or will it stay apart from kind of that? No comment?
No comment.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about, I'm going to steal something from Moon, kind of a famous saying around the StarCraft 2 world. Koreans own white dudes. It proved to be true once again at MLG Dallas. Do you worry at all about foreigners? I mean, this is always kind of in the back of everyone's minds, the fact that foreigners are going to be falling off, and the Kespa Koreans and every other Korean just coming in and dominating the scene. Moving forward, are you happy to kind of, I guess, bring in the best of the best regardless of where they come from?
Yeah, well, we have to, right? We have to have a balance of both, I think. So I'm a big baseball fan. I'm a basketball fan. I love watching the Yankees play the Red Sox. Right? It happens maybe 17 times a year during a 162-game season. When the Yankees play the Kansas City Royals, it's not quite the same thing. But I want to know what happened. I watch it. Lots of people watch it. The Knicks, when they play the Miami Heat, that's a different game than when they play the Washington Wizards. It's a question of having a balance of both. I think the biggest goal for me is it's almost looking at college basketball, right, where you've got the perennial teams that just always make the tournament. And they're the favorites to win, and they steamroll, and then suddenly there's an upset, and you get that Cinderella story, right? We need to have a little bit more of that, and I think the way that we get more of that is by having a structure and having an infrastructure which allows for European and North American players, the foreigner players, to do better, to have, a reason. It's not going to happen overnight. That's the thing. People need to get that out of their head. I know we got odds now, and it's new and it's fresh, but it's going to take a year or 2 years to get to a place where you really start to see that. And that's part of the plan. The plan is to have a situation where you start to see those guys chip away. I still remember when Huck won. It was great. It was awesome. What we need more of that. We need a structure that allows for that to happen more frequently.
Well, let's talk about League of Legends, one of your other titles here. With the LCS being what it is today and being kind of the main focus, I guess that's kind of an argued debate right now of the League of Legends group, but You guys ran 3 mini events at Dallas. Wasn't really kind of your standard tournament for League of Legends. How hard is it to schedule, kind of work with, and overall just plan an event with the LCS supported by Riot out there right now?
It's tough. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's pretty tough. Like, you have counter programming almost. You have overlap. You have, you don't necessarily have. We saw dips in audience around the amateur stuff, to be expected, and having 3 distinct events is harder for the audience to follow. So I think we need to iron that out a bit. We need to get to a place where that's smoother. It's going to take a little while, but again, there's no denying that there's a huge audience there for that game. I mean, there's a massive amount of people who tune in and who do watch. But hopefully we can get to a place in the future where things are a little bit easier and not so time constrained and not so kind of forced, I guess would be the word I'd use.
Do you feel that the LCS kind of takes away from maybe the prestige a little bit of some of these other tournaments where it is the main focus in the scene, and then you guys are kind of seen as these off events? Or is it more the fact that it's on you guys to create something interesting for these people to tune into?
Well, I'm definitely worried about the fact that whatever we do is kind of a subset of the LCS. I think we had a really interesting matchup happen that was a subset of the LCS and with Dignitas, and but that can get lost in the noise. So I think we will work with Riot to try and figure out the best way to do that. And yes, it is up to us to a certain degree, but there are challenges. Like I said, when you have a certain roster of teams available, a certain plan that you're supposed to execute. The amateur story, the amateur scene, is something that we weren't really sure how folks were going to respond to that. Right, watching teams fighting for a shot at a shot, and it was a lower point in the audience number for us over the weekend. Again, but I think there's nowhere to go but up. We'll work with them to figure it out, and most importantly, try and deliver what we think is a quality event within the context that we're allowed to.
One of the last questions I have for you guys have recently announced kind of this partnership with Sony Online Entertainment and PlanetSide 2. It's always been almost a dream of these tournaments like yourself. It started with CPL and Angel Munoz wanting a game that he co-developed or whatever for the league.
Compare me to Angel.
That your words, not mine, Sonny.
Okay,
but we see Riot doing it right now with the LCS, and obviously how well that's working out. It's always great to kind of control your own game, right? Is that what you guys are looking to do here with PlanetSide?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, we're trying to create something new. I mean, it's not a natural. It's not just like hey, this is a neat and tidy shooter that'll work for esports, but the fact is that we have an audience that plays, spends a lot of time focusing on particular games maybe, but then there are other games that they have interest in. SOE saw a dramatic spike in engagement around the event. Their numbers were really solid in terms of folks playing their game, and the videos that we created, and you see the work they're doing with Access and John and Jenna, and I just think it's a really good group of people is where it starts. John Smedley and Higby, those guys they're super engaged. They play these games. I mean, Higby's a big StarCraft 2 fan. Smedley plays a lot of Dota 2. They're joking about, trying to steal, strats and it's great to work with people like that. I can't stress it. After years and years and years of kind of having to trying to convince people, hey, esports is real. Competitive gaming is a thing. Think about this community, because it's a really amazing community. We now have people who are making these games thinking about that. And yeah, PlanetSide, for them, it's not that it's a bolt-on, but it's a new roadmap that they've decided to add to their vision for the game. And it's going to be interesting, right? Because they're not expecting it to be the League of Legends or Dota 2 or StarCraft 2. They're not. But what they're expecting to be able to do is to work with us to present the game to a community that respects, the effort and the craftsmanship. And I think, it's pretty great to be sitting with them and to watch them in the stands. I mean, Smedley brought his 18-year-old son to the event. He was in Dallas interview at a school, but the real reason, that was the excuse. The real reason was because he wanted to come to the event. I mean, I'll take that. I'll take a partner like that any day of the week. I really will. It's awesome. And they're engaged, and they're out there, and they're talking to people, and they're listening. So what we're going to do with them is we're going to try and create something that's new and unlike. It's not a Counter-Strike clone or anything else, but it's a way to take this engine that they have and layer what we do into it. And it'll take time. The other thing is we're not rushing. It's not going to happen overnight.
What is the end game with PlanetSide? Is it to have it on the circuit? Is a MLG Pro game? What's kind of what are you looking to gain from that overall?
Well, I think just, look, they're going to use, they've built a really impressive engine for that game, right? There's an engine underneath it. It's not just a game. And so then you say, well, they're probably going to make other games on that engine. So maybe we can work with them to get, very close with them, to have an understanding of one another and how we can benefit each other over time. And yeah, we're going to do some work around PlanetSide, and we may do some work around, other games that eventually get spawned onto that engine. But the end result, the end game the goal is to have a partner that we have a very close relationship with, where we're able to sit down and communicate desires, for a competitive league structure around a shooter-based game, or maybe come out with something else next. Who knows? Because I think that doesn't hurt us. It's, at the end of the day, that's great for the community. It's great for the fans, and it's great for us as a league because it means we have a really engaged partner. And that's we're going to see where that goes.
All right. Well, that is all I've got. Sundance, do you have any closing words here?
No, thanks, man. Keep doing what you do, and thanks to everybody who came to the event and tuned into the event, and and everybody who's a fan. You guys make it awesome.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Sundance, thank you for coming on to do the interview. We will see you guys next time.